Hi, I'm Tim and thanks for watching this video. I previously have done videos on how to set up the Reolink video doorbell camera and integrate this into Home Assistant so that it pops up a video on screen when someone rings your doorbell. Well, those integrations no longer work, according to what my subscribers and also my channel members have said. So in this video, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you how to do the new version of the Reolink video doorbell pop-up integration in Home Assistant so that it does pop up on your dashboard, and also you can set the timer on it so that it stays on screen for as long as you want. So let's get started. So here we are, and I'm at my computer, and you'll see that I've opened up the Reolink app. So this is the Windows version of the Reolink app, and what we need to do before we get started now, if you've already linked in your Reolink doorbell into Home Assistant, so you've already got the Reolink integration and the device linked into Home Assistant, then what you can do is skip to the next chapter marker, which I'll put in the video description, and also the chapter markers will appear. So you can skip this step and then go straight into the chapter where I start adding the device and setting up the automation in Home Assistant. So if you haven't already done that, then continue watching from now. So what we need to do is, with the Reolink app open and also the device, so at the moment we've got the doorbell on screen, and what you need to do on the left hand side is click the gear icon for the doorbell. As you'll see, mine is called DBL1, and with the pop-up window for the settings for the doorbell on screen, what we need to do is go into network, then go into network information, and you'll see that the IP address is listed. So what you need to do is make a note of the IP address for the device. In this case, it's the video doorbell, and it's 192.168.2.116. Now it's actually in a different VLAN to my Home Assistant server, so that doesn't matter. So what we'll do is add the IP address in manually. So that's why we're making a note of the IP address. And then once you've noted the IP address, you need to click on again network at the left hand side pop-up window, and then you'll see we get the advanced tab there. So click on advanced, then you'll see we get the advanced with UPnP and then enable DNS and so on. So what you need to do is select server settings, and then in the server settings screen, what you need to do is make sure that you have HTTPS ticked. So as you can see, I've already ticked mine, so it's got a blue tick in the box, and for HTTPS it's got port 443. And what you also need to do is tick the box for RTSP, which is under HTTPS. So you'll see I've already done that with a tick box, and for RTSP we've got port 554. So once you've ticked those two boxes, you then click the save button at the bottom, and it said successful. So now what we can do is come out of the app, so click close on the pop-up window, and then close the Reolink application, and then for the other tab, which you'll see I've already logged into Home Assistant, and what we're going to do is we're at the legacy dashboard at the moment. So I've got the overview and also the old style dashboard as well. Now, if you do want to know how to create your own dashboard in Home Assistant, then keep an eye out for that video, as I will be making a video soon about how to create your own customized dashboard. But to carry on with this video, what we need to do is add the Reolink integration. So what we do is click on settings at the left hand side, then we'll go to devices and services, and then what we're going to do is select add integration. Then with the setup new integration search box that appears, we'll type in Reolink, and you'll see we get Reolink with their blue R logo. So click on Reolink, and then you'll get a pop-up window with Reolink, and then it's asking you for a username, password and host. So with the username, what you need to do is type in the username and password for your Reolink doorbell. Now, you would have created the username and password when you first set up and add your device into the Reolink app, it will ask you to create a username and password. Now, if you've forgotten what those are, what you'll need to do is factory reset your doorbell and then add it into the Reolink app again and then create a new username and password. But in my case, I know what the username and password is, so we'll type in that. And then in the host box, what we're going to do is we're going to type in the IP address which we noted down when we were in the Reolink application for the doorbell. So if you remember, we showed the network information on screen and I told you to make a note of the IP address. So we're going to type in this IP address in there. So in my case, it's 192.168.2.116. So once you've typed in those three boxes, you then click submit and wait for the doorbell and Reolink integration to be added into Home Assistant. And you'll see you'll get a name and a sign box. So it's detected the Reolink video doorbell PoEW, and that's the model number. So I'm using the PoE version, but you can use the battery version if you want as well. And it's also detected the Reolink chime. So it's asking us to add them to an area, but in this example, you don't have to select an area, so I'll just leave it and click skip and finish. Now you'll see we've got the Reolink integration and we've got the chime and also the doorbell added. So now that we've added the Reolink doorbell and chime into Home Assistant, what we need to do is create the automations to create the pop-up on screen. So to do this, we'll go to Settings at the left-hand side, and then what we're going to do is select Devices and Services. Then we're going to, at the top, select Helpers, and then in the Helper screen, we're going to select Create Helper. And then with the pop-up search box on screen, we're going to search for timer, and you'll see we get timer with a blue timer icon next to it. So select it, and then in the create timer window, you'll see it's asking for a name. So in this case, we'll call it 1 minute. And what this timer will do is hold the video feed on screen for 1 minute before disappearing off screen. Now you can change this if you want. So if you want it longer or shorter than a minute, what you would do is just change the name, say for 30 seconds, 2 minutes and so on. And then with the icon, you click in there and then in the search box, type in timer and you'll see we get MDI timer. Now you can use any one of these icons, but I just use the one for MDI timer. Then in the next box, we get hours, minutes and seconds. Now here is where we set the time that we want the video doorbell to appear on screen before disappearing. So in my case, we're setting this for 1 minute. So in the minutes section here, we'll type in 01. So we've got hours 0, minutes 01, and then seconds 00. So once you've typed in the time that you want the video to stay on screen when someone rings your doorbell, just set the time there, either minutes or seconds. And then once you've done that, click on create. So that's created the timer. So now we've done that, what we need to do is create the automation. So to do this, we'll go to settings at the left hand side again. Then we'll select automations and scenes. Then in the automation screen, we'll click on create automation. Then what we'll do is select create new automation. And then you'll see we get the new automation screen. So under the section for when, you'll see we've got an add trigger button. So what we need to do is click the add trigger button. And then with the search box that appears on screen here. And then in the search box at the top, we'll type in visitor. And you'll see we get visitor with DBL1, which as you recall is the name of my doorbell. And you'll see we get the doorbell symbol next to it. And it says binary sensor. So what you need to do is select visitor, and you'll see in the entity and state it's now added the visitor button in there. And then what we need to do next to the visitor, you'll see there's a plus icon. So click the plus and then you'll see we get a state window appeared here. So under the option for 2, so it's saying 2 and then optional, we click in that box there and select on from the drop down list. So for the state, we should have entity, visitor, doorbell, and then 2 on. And then once you've entered those 2 items, you can click the X in the state pop-up window here. Then under the Then Do section, you'll see we've got Add Action. So what we need to do is click the Add Action button. Then in the search box, we'll type in timer, and you'll see we get timer, reload timers, finish timer, start timers, and so on. So what you need to do is select the option for timer, start timer, and then it will pop up with the timer, start timer box at the right hand side here. And what we need to do then is select add target, and you'll see we get another pop-up window with our timer that we created a few minutes ago in the helpers section. So you'll see we get 1 minute pop up there. So that's our timer to stay on screen with the video for 1 minute. So you need to select 1 minute or the name of your timer. And then once you've done that, you can then click the X button to close that pop-up window. And then you'll see it takes us back to the new automation screen. So we've got when DBL1, so that's doorbell 1, visitor changes to on. And then under the section for then do, we've got timer, start timer for 1 minute. So then once you've entered those 2 conditions, you need to click save in the bottom right corner. And then in the save pop-up window, we'll call this doorbell automation. And then once you've given it a name, you can click save. So now that we've created the automation, we now need to go back to our dashboard. So in my case, it's called Legacy, and you'll see I get the dashboard, which is quite basic at the moment. I will be doing a video soon on how to create your own dashboard. So for the moment, what we need to do is in the top right corner, click on the pen icon, which is for edit dashboard. Then in the bottom right corner, we need to click on add card. And then with the add card pop-up search window, we need to select by card. So you'll see here, we've got by entity selected by default. So we need to select by card. Then in the search cards line, we'll type in conditional, and you'll see we get conditional. So click on conditional. And then what we need to do is click on add condition. Then with the drop down that comes from add condition, you need to select entity state. And then in the entity line where it's saying select an entity, you need to click in there, and then you need to select your timer. So you can see here we've got the timer which says 1 minute and then timer next to it. So click on it and it will then put 1 minute in the entity timer, or whatever you've called your timer. So whether you've called it 30 seconds, 2 minutes and so on. Then in the section for state is equal to, you need to leave that as it is, but next to that you'll see we get state. So we need to click in state and select active. So you'll see we've got state is equal to, and then now we've got state active. So now we've entered that information. At the top you'll see we've got conditions and card. So you now need to select card, and then in the search cards line type in picture space entity. And you'll see we get picture entity, and then it's showing with a window and a bed in a room. So click on that, and then you'll see it takes us into the screen which is asking us for entity. So in the entity box, it's already got something in there. So just click in that box, and then what we're going to do with the search option that pops down, we're going to type in Fluent, F-L-U-E-N-T, and you'll see we get Fluent for doorbell 1, and then it's got camera next to it. So select Fluent, and then what we're going to do for the camera view option where it's saying it's auto, so you'll see camera view and auto, we're going to click in that box and we're going to select live. So now you should have camera view live, and at the right hand side you should have a video pop-up screen which shows the live video feed for your doorbell. So once that information is showing up and you've entered the information for Fluent under entity, camera view is live, you can then click save in that pop-up window. This will then take you back to the edit dashboard screen. So all you need to do is click done, which is at the top right corner. And you'll now see that the picture of the doorbell has disappeared off screen. However, this doesn't mean it's not working. It just means that now, whenever someone presses your doorbell, it will pop up the video screen and it will show it on screen for 1 minute. So there we are. It started at about 10, 50 and 45 seconds. And there we go, 10 minutes 51 and 38, 39, 40 seconds. And there we go. So it's roughly 1 minute the video stays on screen. So that will do it for this video. Hope you found this video useful, and of course please use this version as opposed to my other previous Reolink video doorbell pop-up versions, as this one is now working. So thanks for watching, take care, and I'll be back soon with more videos. Bye for now.